Hey everyone, Tony Winston here for Jazz Piano College. Going to continue along with the Rootless Voicings series, and the shape I'm going to cover today is shape 3, which is like this. But before I do that, I'm going to just briefly go over shape 1 and shape 2, what we've covered so far. So this is shape 1, and it can function as a dominant chord, okay, like this. Right, that's a 2-5-1 in C, and this dominant chord is G7 with a 9 and a 13, and so it's not an altered chord. It's what we say unaltered because the 9th and the 13th have not been sharped or flatted or anything done to them. Now we can also use it as a 2-5-1 this way. Right, and that is G flat major, 2-5-1 in G flat major. So here's A flat minor and D flat dominant 7th, and this time you've got the 3rd and the 7th, but this is the flat 13, or you can call it the sharp 5 also, and this is the sharp 9. I like to call it the flat 13 because that's what it is. Anyway, that's how I learned it, but you see it has a lot more bite in this situation. Okay, we have also used it as a minor 7 flat 5 chord, in this case B minor 7 flat 5, and here it is in the 2-5-1. Alright, going to A minor, so B minor 7 flat 5, to an E altered, and notice I'm using shape 1 here for this chord. And we also used it as D minor 6-9, and here it is as a 2-5-1. Right, and shape 2 was just the inversion of this, so it'll have the same functions: 2-5-1. Another one here, and then as a minor 7 flat 5. Is that right? Yes. As a minor 6-9 chord. Okay, it has a few other functions as well. It can actually function as an E dominant chord, suspended. However, I've not really covered that function of it. And there is another one too. It could be an F major 7th with a flat 5. Not a rootless voicing, but it's useful in that way also. Now, let's get to the third shape. And it's very similar to the first shape. You just flat this one note here, move this one down. All right, and it's going to function pretty much the same way as a G dominant 7th, but this time it's got one altered tension, which is the 9th that's been moved down to the flat 9, and the 13 up here is unaltered. If I flatted it, we'd have an altered chord, but it's not altered. And that's why I like to call this the flat 13 and not the sharp 5, because, you know, very typically, you'll have it moving from the 13 to the flat 13, and then onto our 1 chord. Okay, now this chord is very interesting in that it's kind of like a diminished chord with a whole tone or a whole step extension. And just like the diminished chord, which can be used any inversion, still out of the same chord, this chord can also be moved up and down in minor thirds, and it will have the same function. It will be a G dominant chord in each situation. So here it's a G dominant with a flat 9 and a 13. Here it's a G dominant with just a flat 9, and there's no 7th, but it sounds like a dominant chord. Put a 7th in down there if you want. And then up here, it's got the 3rd and the 7th and the 5th too, and a sharp 9. And then here's one that's got a flat 9 and a sharp 11. Right? Now these are kind of cool to use in 2-5-1s, and I'll demonstrate it. Now, that was this one. I'm going to try this one, so watch. D minor. Okay, it's harsh, but it works. And it's kind of cool, you know. So from a minor 7 chord, just in root position, it's easy to get to. Just flat this one and sharp that one. So, you know, it gives you a lot of edge, a lot of dissonance. All right. This one is probably the most common as a G7th chord. And by the way, all of these that I'm going to show you, since it's the same diminished chord moving up, the same diminished scale will work. And that's not to say other scales wouldn't work also, but the diminished fits it really perfectly. So from D minor 7th here, works pretty nicely. All right, and then here's another one. Maybe from this D minor is an easy way to get there. And there's nothing that says you can't use a couple of them like this. So I use this one, that one, and that one. I have heard Chick Corea do stuff like that too, move those chords around. I could also point out that you could take any one of these chords and change the bass note, and you'll have the same thing functioning here, right? Or B flat. The same 4 chords will work on B flat. The same 4 chords will work on C sharp. Okay, and of course, this chord functions also not just as a dominant 7th with various alterations or extensions, but it also will function as a diminished chord. And for this, I will do Bewitched. So first, I'll just do it with regular diminished chords. C sharp diminished, and D sharp diminished. And here's an E7, F sharp diminished. Okay, now I'll use the shape number 3. And you know, it's not going to support the melody in a very beautiful way, but you'll hear that it's logical and it makes sense. And you know, if you're trying to look for some kind of different sounding harmonies, you're going to find a few by doing this. That's pretty nice there. Now that's an E7, but I took this chord because you know, this is one of the functions of shape 3 is as a dominant 7th chord. Or I could have done that one, you know, because like a diminished chord, you can move it around in minor thirds. So I'll be covering it more in depth as I continue to work through the Rootless Voicing series, but I hope you all understand what I went through here. And if you don't or have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'm usually able to see most of the comments and answer questions that way. And you know, if it's a really complicated answer, I'll answer it with a video. Okay, thanks so much, and always like to thank my supporters over there on Patreon, and also the folks that send me things through PayPal. So your support is very much appreciated, and I hope everyone's doing well out there. I'll see you again real soon.